Today I'm going to talk to you about my project-based web quest. So for my project, I decided to do Turning Back Time, which is basically a chance for students to pretend to go back into the past to change an event in history that affects us today. So for the purpose of this project, I chose 8th grade social studies, which is covering the United States Reconstruction era, which is when slavery was abolished and we were adjusting to incorporating Black African Americans into society. So, for the purpose of this project, the students are going to be able to pick from one of 3 events. They can choose the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, the Mississippi enacting the Black Code, the Plessy versus Ferguson case where court ruled that segregation was not discrimination, and they can collaborate with their classmates in a group to come up with a solution to the way that these events affect us today. So what this means is that they can contemplate how if assassination of Abraham Lincoln never happened, how Reconstruction would have been handled more differently, maybe more smoothly, and that might have affected the way that we handled the incorporation of the blacks into society. Also, if Mississippi hadn't enacted the Black Codes, which prevented blacks from testifying against whites, it's possible that racist groups wouldn't have committed as many crimes against African Americans. And in the Plessy versus Ferguson case, hadn't ruled that segregation was not discrimination, would we ever have had a full-blown segregation in the South, and would we have had to fight for equal rights? All of these questions are going to be posed to the students, and they're going to have to come up with a way to go back in time and prevent these events from happening, and then they have to hypothesize 3 things that would be different today that would be better if their plan is successful, and they have to use research to support these claims. Now, in order for them to be able to do this assignment, I have provided them on the right-hand side of the page 3 links that will go to screencasts explaining each of the different parts of the assignment for them to understand, so that they can look at the screencast on Abraham Lincoln that explains his assassination and how it affected us and how things might be different had it not happened. And if they do the Black Codes, there's a similar screencast for that, and there's also a screencast for the Plessy versus Ferguson case, so that the students can do a little bit of research before they decide which events in history that they would like to work on. Now on the task page, it lays out the parameters of the assignment. And this web quest will be an expansion of the class's study of the Reconstruction era. So they are going to choose a historical event, and they're going to determine which events led to their event so that they can try to prevent that from happening. And then they are going to learn to understand what followed as a result of their event and formulate a plan to prevent it. Then, as I said, they will hypothesize how the world would be different and possibly better if they were successful. Now, for the presentation of this project, they're going to try to convince the owner of the time machine to let them go back in history, and the classmates are going to be the owners of the time machine for the purpose of this presentation. They're going to work in groups using either PowerPoint, Prezi, creating videos, or some other form of technology that they have approved to create a persuasive presentation of the sort that someone would do in a business meeting trying to persuade someone to let them do something. And on the left-hand side of the screen, there are links to use some of the recommended formats so that students have some resources to put this whole project together. And now on the process page, they're all now officially time-traveling historians, and so it is broken down week by week, and it lays out the different roles that the students will have to participate in, namely the historian, the cultural consultant, the time traveler, or the technology expert. So the classmates will be broken up into groups of 4, and the historian will be responsible for gathering and organizing the important information. The cultural consultant will be responsible for working with the historian to understand what led up to their historical event and who was involved in it. And then they will work as the group leader that week to devise a plan to prevent the event that they chose. And the time traveler will be the person responsible for leading the group and hypothesizing about the 3 benefits that changing history will have on society. And they'll need to work closely with the cultural consultant to discuss how the plan of action changes the present. And then finally, the technology expert will be responsible for learning how to use and guiding the group through the process of creating their presentation through a technological platform. And each week, one of the members of the group is responsible for leading it. So like I said, the historian begins by providing the research and helping the classmates to understand their event. And then on week 3, the cultural consultant helps the group work to understand what led up to their event and how they plan to change it. And then on the time travelers week, they will be trying to hypothesize 3 possible benefits of preventing the historical event. And on the Technological Expert Week, it is going to be the time for the group to work together to decide what they want to incorporate into their persuasive presentation for their classmates and use technology to do so. And in all of these weeks, there is a group assignment for assessment so that the students will be pacing themselves and making sure that each part of their project is completed in a timely manner so that they do not get overwhelmed at the last minute. This will not be the type of project that students can simply procrastinate and do in 1 week. And on the 6th week is presentation week. So they will have no additional assignments for this project other than to practice and to present it to their classmates. And then after they've presented to the class, they will do a summary of their project, an overall product and their participation in it, and then something they learned from this experience in a 2 to 3 page paper for their individual portion of the grade. And then the evaluation process basically explains how they will be graded as part of the group, and then how they will be graded on their individual work by using the paper that they will write at the end of the experience. And there's a grading rubric so that they know what is going to be expected of them throughout this entire project. And then the conclusion page is explaining to them the parameters of the final paper and hopefully reestablishing what they've learned through this experience. And then the standards page is more for educators and for parents to realize all of these standards are covered in the course of this project. So that really is hitting on a lot of key things that students are supposed to be learning, and it's all incorporated in one project that actually is fun for students to complete. And then on the credits page is myself thanking all the people who've contributed to this assignment and guided me through the process of creating this web quest. And it also has a link to the resources that I used from the information that is provided for the students on this web quest. On the teacher page, I've provided a brief autobiography about myself for those who are interested, and contact information for anyone who would like to also use this project in their classroom and they have questions. I'd be glad to help them use it. And I also talk about the process of creating the web quest, about this particular web quest, and the required knowledge that the students will need to be able to complete it, and the teacher's tasks and participation in this project. I also have included a timeline so educators know how much time they should allot their students, and the amount of participation that will be required, and the equipment. And then I've also given a brief summary of all of the things that this web quest will teach the students throughout the course of this assignment. And that is Turning Back Time by Corinne Campbell. Thank you.